The dusky sky loomed overhead as Chen tossed a crimson scroll in his hand with a smile. Before him, Fire Cloud King's body had already dissipated, banished from the battlefield the moment he lost his battle seal. After his earlier threats, Chen had little trouble achieving his goal, forcing Fire Cloud King to surrender his flame evasion art. It wasn't difficult. At this moment, Fire Cloud King was nothing more than prey on the chopping block. In this battlefield, life and death were fleeting. Even if Chen had chosen to gravely wound or even kill him, no one would have objected. Fire Cloud King might have had one last chance to resist, but he knew the cost. A desperate struggle would leave him severely wounded, possibly even causing long-term repercussions. That kind of outcome was too dire to risk. So, after some internal struggle, he made his choice. Between his divine ability and his own life, he chose the former. Spirit Flame Divine Evasion. Chen grasped the scroll, channeling his spiritual energy into it. Immediately, a flood of information poured into his mind. This flame evasion art was only a minor divine ability, not impressive enough to truly excite him. However, its sheer speed and ability to bypass spirit array barriers made it highly valuable. If not for these attributes, he wouldn't have bothered coercing Fire Cloud King for it. To cultivate the Spirit Flame Divine Evasion, one needed to harness spiritual energy fire. Chen's spiritual energy had once merged with the undying fire, making him perfectly suited for this technique. Satisfied with his spoils, Chen stored the scroll away. This battle had been quite rewarding. He had gained not just 2 battle seals, but also a low-grade defensive sacred artifact and a flame evasion art. I have 3 battle seals now, but I need to keep one for myself, which means I still need 2 more to exchange for the 3 spirits battle formation. Chen murmured. Then again, now that I hold 3 battle seals, I doubt I'll need to hunt for them. Others will come looking for me instead. All I need to do is prepare and wait for them to make their move. With a grin, Chen didn't linger. His figure blurred as he shot toward the distant horizon. The battlefield here had been ravaged by the fight, no longer suitable for setting up spirit arrays. He needed a new location. Meanwhile, as Chen's battle concluded, the spiritual energy screen displaying his fight in White Jade Plaza within Western Heaven War City also faded away. However, the surrounding spectators remained frozen in place, staring blankly at where the screen had vanished. Moments ago, they had watched Fire Cloud King relentlessly pursue Chen, forcing him into a desperate retreat. But in the blink of an eye, everything flipped. Chen unleashed a devastating spirit array, leaving Fire Cloud King with no choice but to retreat. And that wasn't all. What shocked them most was what happened next. Chen actually stepped out of the spirit array and charged Fire Cloud King head-on, with the strength of a lower Earth Supreme. At that moment, countless experts sneered at his recklessness, believing he had let his temporary advantage cloud his judgment. But before their mocking laughter had even fully escaped their lips, their eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Within a mere 10 breaths, Fire Cloud King had collapsed into Chen's grasp, utterly helpless. Even after the spiritual energy screen had faded for some time, the plaza remained silent. The gathered experts exchanged wary glances, their expressions darkening with caution and wariness. Before this, when they heard rumors of Chen's fight with Xiang Ba, they assumed he must have relied on trickery to win. But now, this battle proved otherwise. The strength he had displayed was enough to pose a serious threat to even Upper Earth Supremes. I never imagined Chen's spirit array mastery would be this formidable. That array he used earlier must have been at least at the level of an intermediate spiritual array grandmaster. One expert sighed in admiration. Though intelligence reports had indicated Chen's proficiency in spirit arrays, especially during his time with the Luogod clan, his skill had clearly advanced even further. This guy is downright eerie. He's only a lower Earth Supreme, yet his techniques rival those of an Upper Earth Supreme. No wonder he dared to enter the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. He actually has some real cards to play. He's a true dark horse. But just how far can he go? Given the current standings, he still has a long way to go before reaching the top tier. That's true. The current number 1, Spirit Warrior, has already secured 6 battle seals. Whispers spread around the plaza, but this time, there was no trace of the previous contempt. Everyone had come to realize that Chen truly had the qualifications to challenge the Upper Earth Supremes for dominance. At this moment, Luo Tian God quietly sighed in relief. Although he had some understanding of Chen's methods, witnessing with his own eyes how Chen had defeated an Upper Earth Supreme still left him in awe. In his estimation, if he were to face Chen directly, he would most likely be defeated. This thought made Luo Tian chuckle bitterly. Years ago, when he first saw Mu Chen, the latter seemed insignificant in his eyes. Though he had not looked down on Mu Chen at that time, deep down, he did not truly regard him as a threat. Who could have expected that in just a few short years, the once powerless youth would rise to this point and even surpass him? Luo Tian sighed, suppressing his complicated emotions, and murmured, "Now, let's see how far this kid can go." Before the battle hall, atop the two thrones, the Western Heaven War Emperor glanced at the spot where Mu Chen's spiritual energy barrier had been and smiled faintly. No wonder the Flame Emperor allowed Mu Chen into the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. It turns out he's an intermediate spirit array grandmaster. However, this kind of hidden card only proves that he has the qualification to contend with ordinary Upper Earth Supremes. If he wants to win the championship, it's unlikely. The Western Heaven War Emperor's tone was somewhat indifferent. If Mu Chen's identity as an intermediate spirit array grandmaster was his strongest card, then he was destined not to qualify for the title of Continental Heir, because spirit warriors like them were among the best of the Upper Earth Supremes. So, while Mu Chen's spirit array might be enough to deal with someone like the Fire Cloud King, it would pose no threat to the kind of top-tier strength embodied by the spirit warriors. Hearing this, the Flame Emperor chuckled without comment and then said, "I believe that young friend Mu Chen will not disappoint me with my Dragon Phoenix Heavenly Emperor pill." The Western Heaven War Emperor narrowed his eyes, casting a glance at the many spiritual barriers, nodding slightly with a hint of mockery. "I'll be watching eagerly. I hope this kid doesn't disappoint the Flame Emperor." In his view, it would already be an impressive feat for Mu Chen to make it to the end, let alone contend for the championship. The three holy sons of the Western Heaven Battle Hall would likely teach him a thing or two about knowing his limits. After leaving the site of the previous battle, Mu Chen gradually slowed his pace. He could sense that as the number of battle seals in his possession reached 3, his location would soon fall within the sensing range of other powerful opponents. In the brief half-hour since, he had detected several waves of spiritual energy approaching him. "They're coming quite quickly," Mu Chen thought to himself, then swiftly descended, his robe sweeping through the air as countless spiritual seals fluttered out like butterflies, quickly merging into the void. Though Mu Chen could successfully deploy the full form of the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array, he still faced a certain failure rate. Therefore, he had to make preparations in advance, as any direct confrontation with an Upper Earth Supreme would not grant him enough time to arrange his formations. After a couple of failed attempts, the full 9 dragon-slaying immortal array finally manifested around Mu Chen's location, nestled within a vast forest. Seated atop a gigantic ancient tree, Mu Chen felt the immense power of the array gradually swirling to life, releasing a powerful wave of spiritual energy that caused the surrounding spiritual forces to roar and crash. This time, he didn't bother to conceal the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array. The last time, he had intentionally lured the Fire Cloud King. But this time, someone would naturally come to him. Those who approached would surely probe inch by inch, and even if the array was well hidden, any Upper Earth Supreme would be able to detect it. Since that was the case, Mu Chen didn't see the need to keep it hidden anymore. He laid everything bare, waiting to see who would dare challenge him. With the array set, Mu Chen closed his eyes and waited quietly for the incoming strong opponents. His wait wasn't long. Soon, he sensed 4 powerful waves of spiritual energy rapidly approaching from 4 different directions, finally stopping at a distance in the sky. The 4 people who arrived here immediately sensed each other's presence and cast wary glances from afar. On this battlefield, everyone could be considered an enemy. Their eyes quickly shifted, then they looked toward Mu Chen, who was deep within the Lin Hai, and their expressions froze for a moment. Lower Earth Supreme? That's the outsider, Mu Chen. He actually set up a spirit array around him? Well, this kid is actually an intermediate spirit array grandmaster. No wonder he's bold enough to enter the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. When they saw Mu Chen, their eyes flashed with surprise, and different thoughts crossed their minds. Anyone who fancies the battle seal in my hand, feel free to come take it. While they watched Mu Chen with a strange expression from a distance, he opened his eyes and spoke with a faint smile. Hearing his almost provocative words, the 4 raised their brows, but none made a move. The powerful spirit array around Mu Chen definitely made them feel a sense of danger. Moreover, they were more cautious of the other 3, fearing that someone else might swoop in and take advantage of their action. If you're too scared, then leave. Don't waste time. Mu Chen waved his hand, noticing that they didn't seem to have any intention to act. Arrogant. Hearing Mu Chen's words, a man in purple robes, an Upper Earth Supreme, sneered. He glanced at the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array around Chen, then turned to the other 3 Upper Earth Supremes and said, "If you don't want to make a move, let me have this opportunity. But you must leave first." The other 3 Upper Earth Supremes paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "So it's the Purple Mountain Sect leader. We've heard that the Purple Mountain Sect is an expert in breaking arrays. Since you have your eye on this kid, we'll leave him to you." With that, the 3 immediately withdrew, knowing they couldn't gauge whether Chen's fearless demeanor was genuine or just a bluff. If it were real, they would likely be injured, but if not, they'd let the Purple Mountain Sect leader deal with him. Afterward, when the 2 fought, one would definitely be injured. However, they also understood that the Purple Mountain Sect leader would be on guard against them, so they didn't attempt any unnecessary tricks and simply withdrew from the area. After sensing the 3 spiritual energy fluctuations fading away, the Purple Mountain Sect leader finally turned his cold gaze toward Chen and sneered. "Ignorant brat, do you really think a spirit array can protect you? Let me show you how I'll break this array today." With that, he shot forward, charging into the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array under Chen's amused gaze. After the 3 Upper Earth Supremes had retreated from Chen's area, they stopped and closed their eyes slightly, sensing the violent fluctuations of spiritual energy coming from the direction they had left. "Looks like the Purple Mountain Sect leader has made a move. That kid's probably done for." They chuckled quietly, waiting patiently for the Purple Mountain Sect leader to clash with Chen, hoping they could find an opportunity once both were severely wounded. Their wait lasted about the time it takes to burn an incense stick. After that, their expressions shifted slightly as they sensed the intense spiritual energy fluctuations rapidly dissipating. Has the result already been decided? That quickly. The 3 were surprised and their faces darkened. It seemed that Chen had indeed deceived them. The kid was clearly putting on an act. Looks like the Purple Mountain Sect leader got played. The 3 cursed silently and immediately shot toward the previous direction again, eager to see if any advantage remained. After a while, they neared the Lin Hai, but much of it had been destroyed. Hovering in the air, they looked toward the center, and their pupils suddenly shrank. There, in the center of the Lin Hai, atop a massive ancient tree, sat a young figure. Surrounding him was a large, though somewhat damaged, yet still operational spirit array. As they saw the young figure, shock appeared in their eyes. They never expected that the person still standing there was Chen. The Purple Mountain Sect leader, however, was nowhere to be seen. Clearly, the winner of the previous battle had been none other than Chen. The 3 of them had an expression of intense solemnity and caution in their eyes. Their strength was on par with that of the Purple Mountain Sect leader. If Chen could deal with the latter in such a short time, it wouldn't take much longer to handle them as well. Would the 3 of you like to give it a try? Chen casually toyed with a newly acquired battle seal, smiling faintly at the 3. However, just as his smile appeared, he was slightly taken aback to see the 3 Upper Earth Supremes retreating without hesitation, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Chen looked at the now completely clear sky, letting out a helpless smile. He stood up, glanced at the battle seal in his hand, and sighed. "It seems like I won't come across fools like them again." He knew that once those 3 fled, his name would spread across the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. As Chen had predicted, within a day after the 3 had fled from him, his reputation spread throughout the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. Chen had no idea how these people, who should have been on guard against each other, were exchanging information. However, this also brought Chen some trouble. He realized that now, whenever he set up spirit arrays and waited for opportunities, even if Upper Earth Supremes appeared, once they saw the spirit arrays around him, they would hesitate and eventually retreat. In the past, they might have underestimated Chen's strength due to his lower Earth Supreme level. But now, everyone knew that Chen was an intermediate spirit array grandmaster, and such spirit arrays were enough to threaten Upper Earth Supremes. In the Great Thousand Worlds, it's common knowledge not to engage in a positional battle with a well-prepared spirit array master. So, unless they were foolish, no one wanted to enter the 10,000 zhang radius around Chen. The revelation of his identity as a spirit array grandmaster undoubtedly gave Chen a huge deterrent force. But for Chen, this wasn't good news. Because to obtain the battle seals, he had to defeat other competitors. But these opponents were all as cunning as foxes and wouldn't even enter the range of the spirit arrays, leaving Chen somewhat helpless. Of course, his trump card wasn't just the spirit arrays, but unless a single trump card's power was insufficient to deal with an opponent, he had no intention of revealing his other cards. Sometimes, surprise could also be an advantage. So, for the next 2 whole days, Chen didn't acquire a single battle seal. Of course, there was one instance when an Upper Earth Supreme came to challenge the array, but Chen didn't stop him. The person was too slippery, possessing a sacred artifact that could penetrate space and escape. The moment the situation turned slightly unfavorable, he instantly fled, and Chen was unable to intercept him in time. He could only watch as his prey vanished without a trace. After this battle, Chen's reputation rose again, and no one dared to challenge him. Even when an Upper Earth Supreme passed through Chen's area, they would just glance from afar and leave immediately. Thus, Chen could only watch the emptiness in front of his spirit array and sigh. However, Chen wasn't in a hurry despite his helplessness because he knew that with the brutal battles on the battlefield, more and more of the weaker Upper Earth Supremes would be eliminated, leaving behind only the elites. These elites might still be wary of Chen, but they were no longer like the previous ones who wouldn't dare to act. They would definitely watch for weaknesses, and once a flaw was found, they would launch a thunderous assault. So, with time passing, Chen understood that the true cruelty and intensity of the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield would gradually become apparent. This was the vast marsh sea, where tall peaks pierced the sea surface, resembling sharp knives standing upright. At this moment, Chen sat quietly on top of one such peak. Within a radius of several tens of thousands of zhang around him, the space was fluctuating violently. Countless spirit seals flickered in and out of view like stars, indicating that a complete and powerful spirit array was hidden around him. And every time the spiritual energy within the array howled, huge waves would rise up in this marsh sea. Whoosh! In the distance, the faint sound of wind breaking could be heard. A shadow of light appeared, stepping through the air, and eventually hovered 100 miles away from Chen. Frowning, the figure glanced at the spirit array around Chen, contemplating for a moment before finally turning away. Chen also watched as the shadow of light disappeared, his gaze flickering slightly. From the figure, he sensed an overwhelming spiritual energy pressure, stronger than even the Fire Cloud King and the Purple Mountain sect leader he had defeated before. Sure enough, they keep getting stronger. Chen muttered to himself. Over the past few days, every Upper Earth Supreme he encountered was more powerful than the last. Clearly, those who managed to stay on the battlefield after such brutal eliminations were no ordinary opponents. If that's the case, it should be coming soon, Chen mused. With a snap of his fingers, as the Upper Earth Supremes grew stronger, the deterrence of the 9 dragons slaying immortal array was gradually weakening. He could feel that many top-tier powerhouses had been secretly watching the array, searching for any flaws. This meant that the 9 dragons slaying immortal array alone was no longer enough to make these top-tier fighters afraid. Chen estimated that within a day, someone would make their move against him. Thinking of this, Chen smiled faintly, closing his eyes slowly. He was curious to see who would be bold enough to strike against him next. And in just one day's time, it came. The sea roared as it surged, crashing violently against the peaks. The thunderous sound spread like a distant rumble across the marsh sea. At this moment, Chen opened his eyes. The darkness of his pupils shimmered briefly before fading away. His gaze swept across several distant islands, where he faintly sensed subtle spiritual energy fluctuations. The atmosphere in the world today seemed to carry an air of tension. On those islands, it felt as though there were predatory eyes watching. At that moment, Chen resembled a lone wolf surrounded by a pack of tigers. If he showed any sign of weakness, he was certain the hungry predators would rush at him, aiming to seize the battle seal in his hands. However, the cautious ones were waiting for the right opportunity. None of them dared to make the first move. The sunlight poured down from the sky, shining on the marsh sea, its shimmering waves creating a dazzling scene. Chen gazed at the sparkling surface of the sea, but his eyes suddenly narrowed. He slightly raised his head and saw the sea in the distance turn blood-red at an astonishing speed. Then, the blood-red wave surged up, forming a towering tide, accompanied by the sounds of thunder and wind, rolling towards him. In just a few breaths, the massive blood-red wave appeared tens of thousands of feet away from Chen's position and slowly stopped at the edge of the 9 dragons slaying immortal array. The crimson tide roiled, and on top of it, a figure in a blood-colored robe appeared. The familiar, sinister face was none other than the blood spirit son of the Blood God clan. He stared at Chen with a cold, malicious look, as though eyeing prey. His gaze was filled with savagery and ruthlessness. "So it's you, old dog." Chen stared at the blood-robed figure in surprise, then chuckled darkly. "I vaguely sensed your presence these past few days, but you always hid like a rat. Now, you're finally showing yourself." Upon hearing Mu Chen's unapologetic words, the blood spirit son's expression turned icy, and he hissed, "Boy, you're about to die, and you still dare to talk back." Mu Chen raised an eyelid and replied indifferently, "I can't be sure if I'll die, but I can guarantee that today, you will face a great disaster." Though his voice was calm, there was an undeniable killing intent hidden beneath it. Mu Chen had long wanted to rid himself of the blood spirit's son. It was said that Luo Li's father died because of him, and Luo Tian God was severely injured by his blood poison for years. When Luo Li returned to the Luo God clan, she also faced tremendous pressure and even death threats from the blood spirit's son. In a sense, the blood spirit's son was the Luo God clan's greatest enemy. Although Luo Li had never shown any hatred for the blood spirit's son in front of him, Mu Chen could feel it. She simply didn't want him to take the risk of killing the blood spirit's son, so she kept her emotions in check, waiting for the moment when she could truly grow strong enough to personally take revenge on her enemy. Because of this, Mu Chen harbored a deep desire to kill the blood spirit's son. As he entered the battlefield, he had already made up his mind. He would find an opportunity to eliminate the blood spirit's son, this great threat to the Luo God clan, once and for all. Now, this old man had come to him of his own accord, which seemed to fulfill Mu Chen's wish. "Hey, you're just a clueless little brat," the blood spirit's son sneered. Then coldly added, "But do you really think that with a mere intermediate spiritual array master formation, you can act so arrogantly here? You think that there are no spiritual array masters in the Western Heaven continent?" As he spoke, he waved his sleeve, and suddenly, a dark light flashed beside him. In the next moment, a gaunt old man in gray robes appeared. As soon as the gray-robed elder appeared, his small eyes gleaming with a faint light, he scanned the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array surrounding Mu Chen and nodded. He smiled and said, "Indeed, it's an intermediate spiritual array. No wonder no one has dared to strike at him recently. The Ghost Master is famous for his mastery of the intermediate spiritual array, having studied it for years. The depth of his expertise is not something a young brat can compare to," the blood spirit's son remarked with a slight smile. The gray-robed elder, known as the Ghost Master, chuckled darkly. "Blood spirit's son, enough with the nonsense. I can help you suppress this spiritual array, but after we succeed, half of the battle seals on that brat will belong to me, and you'll need to pay 1 battle seal as compensation." A look of pain flashed in the blood spirit's son's eyes, but he quickly nodded decisively and coldly said, "As long as we can deal with this brat, I'll agree to your terms." "Haha, that's the spirit," the gray-robed elder laughed. Sitting cross-legged on the peak of a mountain, Mu Chen looked at the laughing figure of the black-robed elder and narrowed his eyes slightly, murmuring, "So they hired a spiritual array master to deal with my formation." Meanwhile, at the White Jade Plaza in Western Heaven War City, countless gazes converged on a glowing screen. When they saw the blood spirit's son and the black-robed elder appear, a chorus of whispers erupted in the air. That blood spirit's son actually brought the Ghost Master with him. Rumor has it that the Ghost Master has been a mid-level spiritual array master for many years. With him involved, Mu Chen's formation will surely be rendered useless. Now he's in big trouble. Without his formation, Mu Chen is like a toothless tiger. He's doomed. Amidst the commotion, Luo Heavenly God gazed deeply at the screen, his eyes locked on the figure of the blood spirit's son. Through gritted teeth, his voice oozed with intense hatred. "Blood spirit's son, you old dog, you truly deserve to die." On the boundless marsh sea, the waves roared and howled, and the atmosphere was thick with a sense of impending danger. On some of the nearby islands, vague gazes locked onto a crimson patch of water in the distance. When they saw 2 figures standing atop the towering waves, their eyes flickered in surprise. That blood spirit's son has even brought the Ghost Master to deal with Mu Chen. With that, Mu Chen is doomed this time. The Ghost Master is a renowned spiritual array master from the Western Heaven continent. It shouldn't be difficult for him to handle Mu Chen's array. Soft voices whispered among the observers, their tone tinged with schadenfreude. Mu Chen's recent invincibility had clearly stirred discontent among the local powerhouses, especially since an outsider had been so arrogant in their Western Heaven continent, disregarding them entirely. Now that they were about to witness Mu Chen's downfall, they felt no sympathy. Among the many hidden eyes watching from the shadows, the blood spirit's son stood atop the crimson waves. He looked at Mu Chen with a sinister smile, then coldly said, "If this were outside, I wouldn't be able to do much to you. But here on the battlefield, there's no mercy. Even if you fall today, I don't think even the Flame Emperor would say anything." Blood spirit's son's gaze locked onto Mu Chen, filled with chilling killing intent. His wariness toward Mu Chen was immense, How could someone with only lower Earth Supreme strength roam so freely on the upper Earth Supreme battlefield? If Chen were to advance to upper Earth Supreme, wouldn't he possess a terrifying power comparable to perfect Earth Supreme? Such a figure was nothing short of monstrous. Since their enmity was irreconcilable, Blood Spirit's son had no choice but to eliminate this threat once and for all. However, in response to Blood Spirit's son's murderous tone, Chen merely nodded slightly and smiled. That's exactly what I had in mind. Blood Spirit's son wanted Chen dead, but Chen was just as determined to rid the Luo God clan of this menace. If Blood Spirit's son fell, the Blood God clan would suffer a devastating blow, and the Luo God clan's situation would change completely. But for now, Blood Spirit's son remained within the Blood God clan's stronghold, guarded by numerous powerful figures and fortified by years of preparation. Even if Chen brought the entire Mu Manor's forces, eliminating this old monster wouldn't be easy. That was why this Upper Earth Supreme battlefield was a golden opportunity. Seeing the same murderous intent reflected in Chen's eyes, Blood Spirit's son let out a cold laugh. In this situation, you still dare to speak so arrogantly? You truly don't know your place. With that, he had no intention of wasting more words. He turned to Ghost Master beside him and said, Master, let's enter the formation together. You suppress the spirit array while I deal with that boy. Without the support of the spirit array, Chen, in Blood Spirit's son's eyes, was nothing more than a toothless tiger. Very well. Ghost Master nodded with a faint smile. The Grandmaster spirit array before them was indeed impressive, but suppressing it was within his abilities. Besides, all he had to do was suppress it. Blood Spirit's son would be the one taking the real risk. The two of them stepped forward together, their movements sending ripples across the battlefield. I can help you suppress this spiritual array, but after we succeed, half of the battle seals on that brat will belong to me, and you'll need to pay 1 battle seal as compensation. A look of pain flashed in the Blood Spirit's son's eyes, but he quickly nodded decisively and coldly said, As long as we can deal with this brat, I'll agree to your terms. Haha, that's the spirit, the gray-robed elder laughed. Sitting cross-legged on the peak of a mountain, Chen looked at the laughing figure of the black-robed elder and narrowed his eyes slightly, murmuring, So they hired a spiritual array master to deal with my formation. Meanwhile, at the White Jade Plaza in Western Heaven War City, countless gazes converged on a glowing screen. When they saw the Blood Spirit's son and the black-robed elder appear, a chorus of whispers erupted in the air. That Blood Spirit's son actually brought the Ghost Master with him. Rumor has it that the Ghost Master has been a mid-level spiritual array master for many years. With him involved, Chen's formation will surely be rendered useless. Now he's in big trouble. Without his formation, Chen is like a toothless tiger. He's doomed. Amidst the commotion, Luo Heavenly God gazed deeply at the screen, his eyes locked on the figure of the Blood Spirit's son. Through gritted teeth, his voice oozed with intense hatred. Blood Spirit's son, you old dog, you truly deserve to die. On the boundless marsh sea, the waves roared and howled, and the atmosphere was thick with a sense of impending danger. On some of the nearby islands, vague gazes locked onto a crimson patch of water in the distance. When they saw 2 figures standing atop the towering waves, their eyes flickered in surprise. That Blood Spirit's son has even brought the Ghost Master to deal with Chen. With that, Chen is doomed this time. The Ghost Master is a renowned spiritual array master from the Western Heaven continent. It shouldn't be difficult for him to handle Chen's array. Soft voices whispered among the observers, their tone tinged with schadenfreude. Chen's recent invincibility had clearly stirred discontent among the local powerhouses, especially since an outsider had been so arrogant in their Western Heaven continent, disregarding them entirely. Now that they were about to witness Chen's downfall, they felt no sympathy. Among the many hidden eyes watching from the shadows, the Blood Spirit's son stood atop the crimson waves. He looked at Chen with a sinister smile, then coldly said, If this were outside, I wouldn't be able to do much to you. But here on the battlefield, there's no mercy. Even if you fall today, I don't think even the Flame Emperor would say anything. Blood Spirit's son's gaze locked onto Chen, filled with chilling, killing intent. His wariness toward Chen was immense. How could someone with only lower Earth Supreme strength roam so freely on the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield? If Chen were to advance to Upper Earth Supreme, wouldn't he possess a terrifying power comparable to perfect Earth Supreme? Such a figure was nothing short of monstrous. Since their enmity was irreconcilable, Blood Spirit Sun had no choice but to eliminate this threat once and for all. However, in response to Blood Spirit Sun's murderous tone, Chen merely nodded slightly and smiled. That's exactly what I had in mind. Blood Spirit Sun wanted Chen dead, but Chen was just as determined to rid the Luo God clan of this menace. If Blood Spirit Sun fell, the Blood God clan would suffer a devastating blow, and the Luo God clan situation would change completely. But for now, Blood Spirit Sun remained within the Blood God clan's stronghold, guarded by numerous powerful figures and fortified by years of preparation. Even if Chen brought the entire Mu Manor's forces, eliminating this old monster wouldn't be easy. That was why this Upper Earth Supreme battlefield was a golden opportunity. Seeing the same murderous intent reflected in Chen's eyes, Blood Spirit Sun let out a cold laugh. In this situation, you still dare to speak so arrogantly? You truly don't know your place. With that, he had no intention of wasting more words. He turned to Ghost Master beside him and said, "Master, let's enter the formation together. You suppress the spirit array while I deal with that boy." Without the support of the spirit array, Chen, in Blood Spirit Sun's eyes, was nothing more than a toothless tiger. Very well. Ghost Master nodded with a faint smile. The Grandmaster spirit array before them was indeed impressive, but suppressing it was within his abilities. Besides, all he had to do was suppress it. Blood Spirit Sun would be the one taking the real risk. The two of them stepped forward together, their movements sending ripples across the battlefield. Countless eyes, both hidden and exposed, watched intently as they entered the range of the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array. Boom. The moment they crossed the threshold, a surge of overwhelming spiritual energy erupted within the spirit array. 9 massive spiritual energy dragons materialized, their sheer presence exuding immense pressure as they locked onto Blood Spirit Sun and Ghost Master. This array truly is extraordinary. Ghost Master gazed at the 9 dragons with a note of admiration. That Chen is an exceptional talent. To possess such mastery of spirit arrays at his age is remarkable. Blood Spirit Sun's eyes, however, glinted with cold malice. The greater Chen's talent, the stronger his killing intent became. "Ghost Master, can you suppress it?" Blood Spirit Sun asked. Ghost Master smirked arrogantly. "Impressive as it is, this array won't be enough to stop me." Swish. As his words fell, Ghost Master flicked his sleeve. Instantly, an endless torrent of spirit seals surged out like a celestial river, merging into the surrounding void. Buzz. The moment the spirit seals integrated, a spirit array rapidly formed around Ghost Master. In the next instant, space distorted, and 9 massive chains of spiritual energy shot forth, piercing through the void and wrapping tightly around the 9 dragons. My dragon binding array is a perfect counter to this one. Ghost Master smiled slightly before shifting his hand seal. As he did, the dense spiritual mist ahead began to dissipate, revealing a clear path. Go. For now, this spirit array won't interfere with you in the slightest. As long as you kill that boy, the array will collapse on its own. Blood Spirit Sun's eyes flickered. He was somewhat displeased. He had expected Ghost Master to destroy Chen's array effortlessly. Instead, the old man had merely sealed it temporarily. Clearly, despite his casual words, breaking the formation was not as easy as he made it seem. Still, though dissatisfied, Blood Spirit Sun didn't press the issue. As long as Chen's spirit array was neutralized for now, it was enough for him. With a nod to Ghost Master, he transformed into a streak of blood-red light and shot through the misty passage. A few breaths later, his vision suddenly opened up. Before him lay an isolated mountain peak rising from the sea. At its summit, Chen sat cross-legged, his gaze cold and indifferent. "You little brat, without the aid of your spirit array, let's see how you turn the tide today." Blood Spirit Sun's figure slowly rose into the air, finally appearing in front of Chen as he sneered coldly. Chen's eyelids drooped slightly as he replied, "You'll find out if you try. Still putting on an act when death is at your doorstep." Blood God Sky stomping foot. Blood Spirit Sun's gaze turned icy as he suddenly stomped his foot. Instantly, a flood of blood-red light erupted beneath him, surging outward like an overwhelming tide. In the blink of an eye, the light coalesced into a massive blood-red foot that descended from the sky, carrying an aura of destruction and corrosive energy, crashing down upon the mountain where Chen stood. Boom. The blood-red giant foot plummeted like a falling meteor. Chen took a deep breath, and deep within his eyes, the crystal pagoda of transcendence emerged. The boundless spiritual energy within his body surged into it, transforming into crystal spiritual energy, which then flowed throughout his entire being. He raised his palm, and crystalline energy shot out, forming a translucent crystal barrier that materialized in the sky. Dong! The blood-red giant foot stomped down fiercely onto the crystal barrier, sending visible shockwaves violently rippling outward. The surrounding space trembled and fractured under the pressure. Rumble! Although the crystal barrier managed to halt the blood-red foot, a terrifying force still managed to seep through. The mountain beneath Mu Chen's feet, unable to withstand the immense power, rapidly collapsed. Boulders tumbled as the entire peak crumbled in mere moments, sending Mu Chen plummeting into the sea along with the debris. Standing upon the water's surface, Mu Chen gazed up at the gradually dissipating blood-red foot, his eyes narrowing slightly. If this was purely a contest of spiritual energy reserves, even with the amplification of the crystal pagoda of transcendence, he was still at a disadvantage against a true Upper Earth Supreme. Hovering in the sky, Blood Spirit Sun looked down at Mu Chen standing on the sea, the corner of his lips curling into a mocking smirk. Kid, do you now understand the gap between yourself and a true Upper Earth Supreme? Without your spirit array, relying on just spiritual energy, you can't possibly challenge me. These were even rarer, for only the most elite warriors, through a secret ritual performed at the moment of death, could be transformed into battle puppets, preserving their strength for eternity. However, the process had a high failure rate. For Mu Chen to possess nearly 1,000 of these elite battle puppets, the original force must have numbered in the tens of thousands. An army of that scale was nearly unheard of. In the Western Heaven continent, only the Western Heaven Battle Hall, a supreme power, could afford to cultivate such a force. Blood Spirit Sun simply could not comprehend how Mu Chen, a mere lower Earth Supreme, had access to such unfathomable resources. What now? Lost that arrogance from before. Mu Chen raised his gaze, his expression amused as he looked at Blood Spirit Sun's darkened face. Blood Spirit Sun's mouth twitched before his expression turned cold once more. Don't get cocky, boy. So what if you have an army? Controlling two separate forces with different battle wills. I refuse to believe you can command them both. Though he had no idea how Mu Chen had acquired these armies, he was certain they were not his own creations. And if Mu Chen had merely inherited them, then commanding their battle wills would be far from easy. Mu Chen, however, only smiled. Under normal circumstances, battle puppets retained remnants of their past obsessions, making them difficult to control even if acquired. But Mu Chen was different. Though the demon-subduing guards had once belonged to the first palace master, Mu Chen had inherited the Heavenly Emperor's legacy. In effect, he was the rightful successor to the ancient Heavenly Palace, making the demon-subduing guards and the soul-slaughtering guards his to command without resistance. With a casual motion, Mu Chen raised his palm and waved. Boom! In an instant, two terrifying surges of battle will erupted like twin volcanoes. Their vast, boundless power engulfed the sky, casting an oppressive shadow over the land. The heavens turned dim, the setting sun bathed the sky in blood-red hues, and the distant echoes of ancient battles seemed to reverberate through time itself. Two vast waves of battle intent transformed into a sea of battle intent, surrounding Mu Chen's body. With each howl of battle intent, the space around him trembled. Within the sea of battle intent, two massive beings slowly took form. These were the spirits of battle intent, the battle spirit of the soul-slaughtering guards, which was a colossal serpent. Its enormous body was covered in countless battle runes, like a sea of stars, totaling 1.5 million in number. The battle spirit of the demon-subduing guards, on the other hand, was a ferocious giant turtle, its mouth filled with sharp tusks. From its shell, sharp bone spurs protruded, and on its body, the number of battle runes was even more terrifying, reaching a staggering 4 million. In the ancient Heavenly Palace, the demon-subduing guards were the most elite force. At their peak, they were capable of withstanding attacks from the alien evil tribes, and even though their numbers were now fewer than 1,000, they were still far stronger than the soul-slaughtering guards. Hiss! The giant python battle spirit let out a roar to the heavens. In the next instant, its massive body shot forward, piercing through space. With an overwhelming surge of battle intent, It sped toward the Blood Spirit Sun with lightning speed. Faced with the brutal attack from the giant python battle spirit, the Blood Spirit Sun's expression darkened. He quickly formed hand seals and shouted, "Blood Shadow Avatar." It was as though a river of blood erupted from within the Blood Spirit Sun's body, and in the next moment, a massive blood shadow formed behind him, towering tens of thousands of feet high. The blood shadow was mysterious, existing somewhere between the tangible and the illusory, exuding a strange aura. This was the Blood God Clan's clan-defining avatar, ranked 38th on the Supreme Body ranking of the 99 ranks. Realizing the danger posed by the two elite armies Chen had summoned, the Blood Spirit Sun no longer dared to be careless. He summoned his Supreme Avatar at once, fearing that any slip-up could lead to disaster. Boom. As soon as the Blood Shadow Avatar formed, its blood-red hand shot out, gathering a river of blood in its palm. The moment it landed, it struck the approaching giant python battle spirit. Bang! Space trembled as the giant python battle spirit was knocked back by the blow. With only around 1 million battle runes, it was barely able to withstand the force of a lower Earth Supreme. It was still far from being able to face an upper Earth Supreme directly. Crush it! With the giant python battle spirit knocked back, the Blood Spirit Sun seized the opportunity and tried to forcefully break the battle spirit. If he succeeded, Chen's soul-slaughtering guards would also be affected. Thus, the blood-red hand, filled with the power of the blood river, condensed into a fist and shot through the void, aiming directly at the giant python battle spirit. Whoosh! But just as the blood-red fist was about to strike the giant python battle spirit, a massive shadow swept in from the side. The giant turtle loomed in the air, its shell glowing with billions of light rays. The massive fist slammed down on the turtle's shell. Boom! Visible shockwaves spread violently, shattering mountains on the ocean's surface, and colossal waves surged outward. In midair, the giant turtle battle spirit trembled slightly but still managed to block the Blood Spirit Sun's fierce punch. At the last moment, its massive jaws snapped open and bit off half of the blood hand. The giant turtle battle spirit of the demon-subduing guards had 4 million battle runes. This number was more than enough to confront an Upper Earth Supreme directly, and it was clear that the Blood Spirit Sun would not have the same advantage as he had with the giant python battle spirit. In the sky, the Blood Spirit Sun's face darkened. Chen's control over the battle spirits was more refined than he had expected. Roar! However, Chen did not give him the chance to act first. The giant python and the giant turtle battle spirits charged forward simultaneously, launching an overwhelmingly violent assault on the Blood Shadow Avatar. Boom! Boom! Above, the wild and uncontrollable battle intent clashed with the blood-red spiritual energy. Each collision shattered the space, and the ocean below was torn apart, leaving enormous chasms. The battle was so fierce it was beyond description. In this sea area, many top-tier powerhouses who had been hiding in the shadows watched the fierce battle with grave expressions. The two battle spirits under Chen's command, though the giant python battle spirit was the weakest, comparable to a lower Earth Supreme, while the giant turtle battle spirit could match an upper Earth Supreme. However, if evaluated individually, the Blood Shadow Avatar, continuously empowered by Blood Spirit Sun's endless supply of spiritual energy, was evidently the stronger combatant. Yet, through flawless control, Chen orchestrated perfect synergy between the giant python battle spirit and the giant turtle battle spirit, neutralizing the Blood Shadow Avatar's terrifying assaults time and again. Moreover, beyond just neutralizing the attacks, the occasional counterstrikes from the two battle spirits forced the Blood Shadow Avatar into moments of unexpected vulnerability. This battle was proving to be an intense and relentless deadlock. Witnessing such a scene, the assembled powerhouses and the countless spectators surrounding White Jade Plaza were deeply shocked. No one had anticipated that even without relying on a spirit array, Chen could still directly contend with a formidable Upper Earth Supreme on equal footing. High above Marsh Sea, Blood Spirit Sun's expression darkened as he watched the two battle spirits launching their relentless attacks. This deadlock was not what he had envisioned. While an Upper Earth Supreme possessed boundless reserves of spiritual energy, Chen was fueled by battle will. So long as his army endured, his battle will would never wane. Over time, Blood Spirit Sun was bound to be at a disadvantage. He had to turn the tide fast. Blood Spirit Sun's eyes flickered sharply before he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Ghost Master, break the array immediately and assist me. Once this is done, All the battle seals on him will be yours, and I'll even throw in 2 extra. His voice echoed like a thunderclap, prompting several hidden Upper Earth Supremes to shake their heads in silence. It was clear now, this man was truly desperate. Within the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array, Ghost Master's eyes lit up upon hearing the offer. He let out a hearty laugh and said, "Brother, you certainly know how to bargain. In that case, give me half an incense stick's time, and watch me tear this array apart." As his voice fell, countless spirit seals shot out from his sleeves. Instantly, the chains wrapped around the 9 spiritual energy dragons sprouted countless dark spikes, greedily devouring the dragon's energy. As their spiritual energy drained away, the 9 dragon-slaying immortal array began to waver, its stability crumbling. Seeing this, both the gathered powerhouses and the spectators around White Jade Plaza erupted into uproar. Beyond the plaza, Luo Heavenly God's face turned grim, his eyes filled with deep concern. If the spirit array was broken and Ghost Master entered the battlefield, the entire situation would be completely overturned. Chen would be doomed.